I'd like to now welcome you all again, honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, and all participants of the third Clean Pacific Roundtable 2021, which is now happening virtually. And the theme for this is sustainable innovations for a clean environment, a resilient ocean, healthy communities. Bonjour, Talafalava, and greetings, and welcome you all back for this session. My name is Joshua Wycliffe. I'm the Permanent Secretary for the Waterways and Environment Ministry, and also the Fiji's second CPRT Chairman from Fiji. And it is my pleasure to be the moderator for our CP 2025 highlights and call to action session today. The purpose of this highlight and the call to action is to hear from inspirational leaders, one particular leader today, and of course followed by our Director General from SPREP, and being Professor Iiga the Winger, an inspirational leader who will be speaking as to why we need a call for action, and also listen to some of the CP 2025 implementation plan for 2016-2025 highlights, and be inspired to call to action to jointly implement the CP 2025 based on the theme on sustainable innovations. Ladies and gentlemen, sustainable innovations is a very dear theme to my heart, and of course, something that we have now started putting in practice into our waste management practices, in looking at every venue, whether it is circular economy, whether it's waste to energy in particular, or even in terms of collection networks. Fiji has been able to put in a few innovative models in place to be able to not just get resources into this particular segment, but also be able to have wider participation. The most recent one is having McDonald's declare themselves here locally as a zero waste organization. Not just that, we've had several other innovative models. I could keep talking, but I don't want to steal the thunder from the speakers who are about to come. The first presentation this afternoon is from Mr. Professor Iiga Tuimagala. He's a global sporting icon and a legendary rugby figure. Iiga the Winger, as he's famously known. He was born in Samoa, and he migrated to New Zealand with his parents in the 70s and was raised in Invercargill before settling in Auckland. One of 15 children, Iiga is a former dual international, having played for the All Blacks from 1989 to 1993, and from Manu Samoa 1996 to 2002. For the Auckland Blues from 1988 to 1993, for the Wigan Rugby League 1993 to 1996, Toa Samoa 1994 to 1996, Newcastle Falcons 1996 to 2002, played 3 times World Cups. 2008, Iiga was honored on Queen's birthday honor list, MNZM for services to sports and community. Currently, he also heads up an organization called Obesity Diabetes Intervention Champion, and I'm also told he's an evangelist. Thank you for Sola. You have the floor now, sir.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. To the chairman of the third Clean Pacific Roundtable for 2021, the government of New Caledonia for hosting this, and to the Director General of SPREP, Ifilma Kosilatu, and your staff there, and to the priests, thank you for those wonderful prayers this afternoon, and to everyone that is participating globally, wherever you are tuning in. Talafalava, and a warm Samoan welcome from this side of the world. Look, I'm very honored to be asked to come and just share a little bit about my story and what you guys are actually doing right now and trying to come together with ideas and ways going forward to making sure that we have a healthier cleaner backyard here in our Pacific region. So when I was asked to come and just share a little bit about my story, I was trying to find what relationship I can have and how important this whole thing about cleaning our environment. And I suppose for me, I've been fortunate enough to play a sport called rugby, and it's given me the privilege and honor to travel the world globally and see different parts of the world and how the human race survives. And I can certainly say that as Pacific Islanders, we're very privileged and we're very fortunate to live in this part of the world, in the Pacific Ocean. And I had the privilege of being able to move to Samoa in 2013 with my family and my grandchildren, and having the opportunity to see firsthand some of the challenges that our people, our Samoan people, as well as our Pacific Island people in the region are facing each day, as well as years that's gone past. And, I could certainly understand and welcome ideas and ways moving forward to try and make sure that we have a cleaner environment, which our future or our children, and not just our generation, but our children's generation, our grandchildren's generation, are raised in that environment where they can be very proud of. And obviously, this has got a lot to do with climate change. And, the big factor is that we as human beings, as the Director General, Kosi Latu, alluded to, we brought this on our own selves, really, how we look after our homes, our environment, because the reality is we don't make any more land, and the more climate change affects our region and our islands and our homes, it affects also our livelihoods. And so for me, I think all I can share is the importance of working together. I was just looking through some of the stuff that in regards to SPREP, the mandate is to promote, cooperation in the Pacific region and provide assistance to protect and improve the environment. The vision is also, a resilient Pacific environment that sustains our livelihoods and our natural heritage in harmony with other cultures. When I look at that, you feel proud as a Pacific Islander. But we've got a huge task. We've got a massive challenge in front of us, because the reality is that we don't act now, and then we're going to lose our land. We're going to lose our heritage, and we're going to lose part of our culture as well. And so, to be invited to come on board and to share my own experiences, how can I relate what our people are going through? And I suppose it's as a former professional rugby player, it's very similar to that of looking after my body. I've been on my journey, and some of the those who are present right now in this meeting would understand where I've been. I was very, very obese, and my health statistics were very poor. And to be honest, I was looking at an early grave. Hadn't I changed my attitude and take responsibility? And I liken my body to that of Earth, or the world that we live in. And the fact that I didn't take care of myself physically and didn't look after my health, I suffered the consequences. And my health deteriorated, and not just me suffered, but also those who are close to me also suffered along the way. My wife, my children, my friends, my family, they suffered along the way. And it's a bit, I suppose, similar to that when we don't look after our own environment, when we don't take care of our own backyard, then the reality is that we're going to suffer the challenges as well. Living in Samoa has also given my children the opportunity to see firsthand some of the challenges that their cousins and our people had to face each day, not just months and years, but every day. In the ocean, we live right across the ocean, and we go and feed the turtles early in the morning, and we see the struggles that the turtles go through themselves. having to be tangled in nets and, eating off plastics. It's exactly what our Director General was saying. Whionga Kosi is, hate to see what our environment is going to be like in 2050, with so much more plastic in the ocean as opposed to fishes themselves. So I suppose we've got a massive, massive challenge ahead. And, for me, I had to take responsibility. And being an ex-sportsman, in this case, rugby, I had to look at myself and clean up what I can clean up. And I'm very proud as a Samoan and going back to Samoa and seeing what Samoa government and its people are doing, trying to clean their own backyard. And, it's just little things, and little education and little programs and little awareness that Samoa and its government and SPREP and all its stakeholders are trying to encourage our people to take pride. Again, as a sportsman, I was brought up with these two words, team pride. I suppose that the acronym for team is TEAM, is together everyone achieves more. And pride, PRIDE, which stands for personal responsibility in delivering excellence. And I suppose that's what the message has been, trying to get our people to take pride in their homes, take pride. And that's where we can start, because we can make a big difference by just starting cleaning our own little backyard, and then we spread further. And in Samoa, I had my own business. I was a tour operator, Iiga the Winger's tours, and I was so proud taking our tourists around, showing how beautiful Samoa is. But at the same time, there are places in our island that is not so pretty as well, and that's because we neglect as people, as islanders, we've neglected. We haven't taken that pride that I'm talking about. So the challenge is going to be enormous. And I got no doubt that having these meetings, these, Clean Pacific Roundtable meetings regularly, and having your stakeholders coming together are so, so important moving forward. I think also the rest of the world are watching. I see, on the news, as many of you have also, about the COP26 and how, they are really looking at urgency action right now to try and fulfill their Paris agreements, and the challenge that they see as big nations. But for us, I think we can just start on what we can control, which is our own backyard. I think for me, I've just got a couple of things. I was born, I was an All Black. I'm a son, I'm a father, I'm a grandfather, and a Pacific Islander, and I'm very proud Pacific Islander. What was important to me in the beginning to what is important to me today are different things. Am I a wise man? What I've seen makes me experienced and knowledgeable, but what I do with it can be very wise. Wisdom has value, and it can change the world. And wisdom is my way to give back to the next generation. I can't tell my 20-year-old self what I know now, but I can speak to the 20-year-olds of today. And wisdom from a Samoan, an All Black, a son, a brother, a father, a grandfather, and a Pacific Island, to give back to those who have the power to change the world. So I've got no doubt that as you embark on this roundtable talks in the next few days, no doubt the challenge is going to be, how do we influence our own backyard? How do we influence those who make those big decisions out there, and the powers to be? And I've learned as an ex-sportsman, that we never stop learning about our environment. The importance of getting my health back was a big part as well of my journey. So it's important to be healthier. And, our climate does determine our health. Our backyard determines our health as well. So I've had to learn to get my health back physically, mentally, and spiritually. And really, I think the key to any success is unity. And as well as I do that unity is strength. And so the more united we are as a Pacific Island people, as a Pacific region, to bring the message home and to tell the rest of the world the importance of making those changes and the call to action today are so important. The other thing is you got to look after our loved ones, the ones that you love the most. You've got to look after them. And so you see, the reality is waste in our community is a major problem. That's the reality for our people, and we need to take action today. So again, coming back to I never stop learning, we need more awareness and education about waste to the world, about the Pacific, that, to be quite honest, I really believe that as a Pacific Island people, we can teach the rest of the world how to handle, waste and pollution in our own environment. Two, we've got to be strong, to look after your health. Again, going back to my story of getting myself back to health, we need to realize that the impact about our waste has on our health is huge, So I want to encourage you, and that polluting our drinking water and source and the health of pristine environment, that all has a part, it affects our health as well. And I think the message is, and I don't want to keep harping on, is that if we can just do our part, we'll go a long way to ensuring that we look after the environment, not just for our generation, not just for the second generation, our children, but our grandchildren and the third and fourth generation. So I think, I really started this already with some of my friends. I'm part of the Moana Pacifica app that I log onto, and it's to, again, having chats like this, getting onto it and talk about what we can do in our own environment. It's about sharing knowledge, and that's what this, the Clean Table conference is all about, is sharing experiences and knowledge that we can act, and not just act tomorrow, next week or next month, but act today, because today is all we have, okay? And I remember, as I finish off my talk, I remember, people say to me, why are you doing this? Why are you getting involved? Well, I'll tell you why I'm getting involved. I once heard a story and read a story about an old man who was walking down the beach, and he saw all these thousands of starfish being washed up, and he was treating on them along the way. And in the distance, he saw this young boy. Picking it up and going back into the ocean and putting this starfish in. And what he realized was that this young boy was trying to save all these starfishes. And when he got to the young boy, he said, "That's a big task, young man. You can't save all these starfishes." And the little boy looked up to the old man and said, "Yeah, I might not save all of them, but I can certainly save this one." And he picked this other starfish and put it in the water, and this one, and this one. He continued on, and the old man learned a lesson or two, that, sometimes, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And we do care. And that's the whole reason why we're coming to this convention this week, is because we care about our environment. We care about our future. We care about our children and our grandchildren's future. We care about how they're going to live in our region. So I think that's that's, for me, that's probably the biggest encouragement I can leave to all those who are logging on and showing their support. Look, we need to tell our stories. We've had so many people in the past from different parts of the world telling our stories, but we need our own Pacific Island people to stand up and tell it as it is, because the reality is we can't leave our islands. We can't just get up and move to another country. Our islands is our home. And that's the difference, and that's why it's important that we do make every effort in this week or so, as we talk and share ideas, to act now, not tomorrow, not next week, not next month. So I want to finish with that, and it's just a word of encouragement to everyone that's involved. And I do want to thank you, the host, the New Caledonian government, for hosting this. I want to thank all your stakeholders. I want to thank Kosi Latu, the Director General of SPREP, and all your staff for making the effort to come together. The more knowledge and effort that we share and experiences that we share, the better we'll be equipped moving forward. So, and I do appreciate the opportunity, and I wish everyone that's coming on board all the very, very best. So from me to you guys, thank you for the opportunity. Of Te Lava, take care and God bless.
Thank you very much, Professor, for the beautiful inspirational speech. We're very humbled that you're able to share with us today your experience and correlating that to how important it is to treasure the environment that we live in. And thank you for the anecdotal references that you made. I'm sure we'll carry a lot with us today, listening to you and how your inspiration and your walk and journey in your life has led you to some key decisions and determination in overcoming barriers. And also thank you very much for sharing not just your story, but also your thoughts and views on how we could do differently going forward. Ladies and gentlemen, I now have the honor of inviting Mr. Kosi Latu, our Director General for SPREP, who will provide us with the Cleaner Pacific 2025 implementation plan for 2016 to 2019 highlights and the call for action. Thank you, Kosi. You now have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chair, for the opportunity to present on this item. But before I begin, can I acknowledge and thank my friend Fesolai, Iiga the Winger, for his inspiring story. Every time I hear Iiga tell a story, I'm always intrigued by his experiences and the many things that he has achieved in life. And I guess one word that you mentioned, Chair, was his commitment and his passion, which he demonstrated on the sporting field, and now been extended to other areas of his life. And so thank you very much, Fesolai. I appreciate your time. And thank you very much for that inspiring speech. Mine is a bit more bland. I have a couple of slides which I'll talk to. I hope I'm going to try and make it a bit more interesting. But my task is really to look at some of the key highlights of the 2016-2019 implementation plan. And try and highlight some of the successes, some of the achievements, and some of the challenges that we have seen in the last couple of years, and also to emphasize the need for a call to action. So I think I've already said that. So let me move straight to slide number 3. It is a bit loaded, but I'll try and go through this. This provides a bit of a historical journey in terms of looking back and then looking at where we are and the progress that has been made in the last 20 years. This is how far back our journey has been in terms of waste management in the Pacific. So what I wanted to start off with is just to perhaps maybe point to the beginning of all of this, and that is the Pacific Regional Action Plan on Sustainable Water Management. I guess that's, you could call that maybe the grandfather of all of this. Which was part of the the JEF International Water Management Project, Reach to Reef, and this was way back in 2001, 2003, and basically that was the genesis or the beginning of the journey for the Cleaner Pacific Roundtable, long before we had the roundtable. We then move on from there, from the Jeff International Waters Project to the Regional Solid Waste Management Strategy for 2005-2015, which is this one, which was endorsed in 2005 and reviewed in 2010. Now, in addition to that, you will see as part of this diagram here that there were other separate waste strategies. So there was the strategies for asbestos, which is, you see right here, from 2011 to 2015. There was the e-waste strategy for 2012, 2015, and then of course the Pacific Healthcare Waste 2013, 2015. And these were part of a new cycle of projects with the European Union under the Pacquis Waste. And so what you saw there was perhaps maybe an attempt to try and begin to look at not just having separate strategies on various forms of waste streams, but begin to start looking at bringing them together. There was, of course, also coming down here at the bottom of the slide, there was the development of the new solid waste management strategy. The idea of that was to try and have an integrated waste and pollution management strategy that was, I guess, focused on bringing together, as I mentioned, all of the various strategies that address, in this case, the context of solid waste, hazardous waste, and pollution. And this resulted in a Pacific Regional Waste and Pollution Management Strategy 2016-2025, or as we know, the Cleaner Pacific 2025. So the integrated strategy covers 15 different waste streams and addresses and focuses on key themes such as human capacity, sustainable financing, collection, disposal, recycling, disaster waste policy legislation, hazardous waste, atoll waste management, as well as partnerships. So, so with the Cleaner Pacific Roundtable, we're now seeing an integration of all of these different waste streams into something that's centralized and conceptualized in a much more integrated manner. Just wanted to touch briefly on the vision of the Cleaner Pacific. It's quite obvious. It is about a cleaner Pacific environment. Mission is to implement practical and sustainable solutions. I would add the innovative solutions for the prevention of the management of waste and pollution in the Pacific. In relation to the SPREP strategic plan, the relevant regional goal is Regional Goal 3, which relates to Pacific people benefiting from improved waste management and pollution control. In this slide, we are looking at the results of, or the highlights that emanated from the midterm review of the Cleaner Pacific. And if you look at the screen there, these are some of the highlights of that midterm review. And first up was the fact that there's been some progress in terms of some of the sustainable development goals. And in particular, sustainable goal number 11, where there was increased national waste collection coverage. So it's been some improvement. This has been a major problem for a long time in many of our member countries. But since the beginning of the Cleaner Pacific 2025, the midterm review highlighted that there's been some improvement in that, which is, I guess, good news for us. Again, the review highlighted some progress in terms of SDG 12, in terms of increased regional recycling. Whilst there has been an increase, of course, many of our countries still don't have the kind of infrastructure for recycling that's needed to completely address these issues. But there's been some good progress made in terms of recycling. SDG 14, new national laws, particularly legislation and policies that are aimed at addressing the issue of marine litter. There's been a lot of focus and emphasis on this, particularly legislation to ban single-use plastics. Continuing on from there, the midterm review also found that there's some significant progress made in terms of establishing regional partnerships. And this has been an extremely positive, I think, development when one looks at the Clean Pacific 2025, is the uptake by key partners. And we've seen the support that has come through, in particular, those programs through the European Union. And under the European Union support, we've seen a number of projects that have been led by SPREP. To name a few, there's the Pacquis, and then, of course, the Pacquis Plus, which complements that. We have the Jeff Pass project, and also the Jeff Islands, which is a new one. And of course, the various AFD projects on waste management, including SWAP, the PAC-POL and the PAC-PLAN, and of course, the partnership that we have with the JPISM through JICA, which has been around for quite a long time. And all of these partnerships are critical in terms of delivering on the Cleaner Pacific 2025. What has been found is that there's been significant progress in strengthening those partnerships, and that's something we would like to continue. I mentioned in my earlier comments, this being the third Cleaner Pacific Roundtable. We've had two other roundtables in the last 5-6 years. First one was in Suva in 2016. And then the second one, again, was held in Suva in Fiji in 2018. As you can see, the attendance, the number of delegates for the first one was, I would say, pretty good. I can't remember the number, but certainly for the one in Fiji, we had, I think, around 300, roughly. And that was I think, a good attendance in terms of the roundtable being in its infancy. But it was the fact that we began to see an uptick by the private sector, civil society, and the community at large, taking an interest in many of the waste management issues. And that was a positive development. So we're seeing this roundtable not only increase in terms of interest, but engagement by various stakeholders. With the first Cleaner Pacific Roundtable, this slide just is a summary of some of the key things that came out of it. And of course, the theme was focusing on a cleaner and safer Pacific environment, as we have done for the last, and we're doing for this Cleaner Round Pacific table. We had a key outcome statement. We had various technical working groups working on different streams of waste. And of course, in the second one, basically followed a similar structure in terms of having an outcome statement, and again, technical working groups focusing on specific waste streams. And I think the positive thing about that was that these working groups were not only active, but not just sharing experiences, but coming up with innovative solutions and looking at new ways of managing waste. And I think that was an extremely positive development in terms of both Clean Pacific Roundtables in 2016 and 2018. There have been other, of course, contributions. They have contributed recently to this journey of waste management in the Pacific. There's been the Pacific Waste, Pacific Hazardous Waste Management Project, and then, of course, to complement that, the Pacquis Plus, both projects being part of the European Union partnership with SPREP. Both projects have been very important in terms of addressing many of the waste streams that I've highlighted earlier on. The Pacquis has addressed these are the areas in which it has focused on in the 5 years of its operation from 2013 to 2018. Some of that work has been picked up by the Pacquis Plus, in particular, the work on health waste management in terms of incinerators from 2018 onwards. There's obviously a bigger envelope with the Pacquis Plus in terms of a 17 million funding package covering about 8 different waste streams across 15 member countries. So the 2 projects, I guess, collectively have contributed a lot to some of the positive developments in this area of waste management, but plenty more work, of course, to be done. In addition to the Pacquis and the Pacquis Plus, we also have this new project that's come on stream. It's Jeff Islands project, which again will provide significant, I guess, assistance and funding support in terms of waste management in the region. It is a Jeff-funded project and will provide additional funding support to many of the other waste streams that we have in the region. This project is now being in the process of being implemented, and I know that my colleagues here in the waste management program are working on details of implementation, but this should be rolled out, hopefully, if not the end of this year, early next year. This is some of the previous projects that have been already implemented through SPREP, the Jeff UPOPs project, which was completed in 2019. Just a couple of key highlights there in terms of this project in relation to technical training, capacity building, used oil, which is becoming a very important area in terms of support to the region in terms of waste management. We also talked about the Jeff Islands project. So, but this new project, the Jeff Islands, as I mentioned, is a new one, and with its funding envelope of 20 million, will provide a strong platform for addressing waste management right across the region. Not to forget also the support from the French Development Agency, the AFD. We have had a number of projects through AFD. We have a current one, which is the SWAP, or the Sustainable Waste Action in the Pacific, that's being implemented at the moment. And all of these projects collectively contribute to the implementation of the Clean Pacific 2025. So a key highlight, I guess, for us in terms of this point is that we're seeing an increased focus funding support from a number of key partners and donors. That includes the European Union, we includes AFD, French government, and also the Australian government and a number of other partners. So Jeff, of course, to be included, and UNEP. Many of these partners have been very supportive of addressing many of the waste management issues in the Pacific. So I think I've already touched on this on the previous slide. These are some of the AFD projects. This is the one that has now was completed in 2015. The one that's currently being implemented is the Sustainable Waste Actions in the Pacific, with an envelope of 3 million euros and focusing on 7 countries addressing their waste management challenges. And these are those areas that is looking at. So again, it complements some of the other projects that have been mentioned together. But the picture here is that we have an increased interest by donors and partners, and also we're seeing an increase in funding support in terms of waste management in the Pacific. So, so I guess this is just a slide that highlights again the various interventions through these different projects that I've mentioned already, ranging from various strategies and work plans, which are part of the Cleaner Pacific and have contributed to implementing the Cleaner Pacific 2025. We talked about the PAC plan in terms of dealing with marine spill, oil spills, and also marine spill contingency plans. So there's a variety of these strategies and plans that are collectively contributed to addressing waste management challenges in the region. I'm not going to try and attempt to explain every arrow that's on that slide. Is a very busy one, but this tries to, this is an example of where certain events, like sporting events, like the Sub-Pacific Games in 2019, where is it 2019? It is 2019. Okay, just checking. Where we were able to use a sporting event to not only highlight the issue of waste management, but also used our our athletes, to also convey the narrative, the need for us to deal with waste management, in particular plastics. And I think that through that initiative of cleaning the Pacific Games, we were able to remove from circulation, I can't remember, Tony, but I think close to about 1,500,000 milliliter water bottles from circulation. And that was because of a sporting event where we focused on recycling and removing plastic water bottles from circulation. And so there was a great achievement. Solomon Islands is the next to host the next Sub-Pacific Games. SPREP has been asked to help. We're hoping that we can replicate something like that, which was an excellent experience in the Solomon Islands. But it just goes to prove that we can use certain events, including sporting events, not only to convey the message, but actually to demonstrate that you can address this issue when you work together. So the call to action, I think we're coming to the end of my slides. So as part of the review, the feedback that came back was that perhaps maybe this is the implementation plan, which is part of the call to action, 2016, 2019. Of course, this is a new one that we'll be talking about in a moment. But the feedback was that it was ambitious in its scope with 124 activities. I understand it's now being reduced to a lot less. activities. But I think that, there's nothing wrong with ambition. When you got a real problem that's causing real issues, I think what you need is ambition. But it's the focus and the commitment and the capacity and, of course, the resources, when available, can help us to realize the ambition. What was, I guess, came out of this review was the lack of practical framework for progress monitoring and assessment. That's been addressed in the new implementation plan, and there will be some discussion on that. There was some good progress, which was achieved for some activities, around 29 at 23%. So there was some good progress. In terms of performance indicators, only 6 out of the 20 performance indicators exceeded or met the 2020 target. So some good progress, but plenty more work to be done. Performance indicator effectiveness and validity was reduced by unclear and incorrectly calculated baseline. So there's a need to work on the accuracy of baseline data, including proper analysis and availability of data. So that's something that needs to be focused on. And associated with that was, of course, gaps existing in terms of data collected and so forth, right across the region, which makes a job of assessment quite challenging. And that's a pivotal point, because if you don't have accurate data or you have gaps existing in your data, then assessment, of course, is going to be limited. So some work to be done there. That's it from me. Thank you very much for your patience, and I hope that that gives you some sense of how we have been performing, or how the Cleaner Pacific 2025 strategy has progressed and implemented. And of course, we've got some good feedback in both progress and areas where we need to work further on. So with that, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kosi, for the highlights and call for action. It was just refreshing listening to you on the progress made. Far too often in a busy world that we live in, we sometimes fail to remember the milestones we've crossed and the achievements made. So we want to thank you for your presentation today. Particular impact it had on me listening was the key partnerships that this has helped us form and develop and grow, and also in particular the uptake of by the private sector, and of course the various partners that have come on board, including the Pacquis program, and also very much appreciate the various strategies and work plans that have been part of this Cleaner Pacific 2025, and all the contribution that was made by these strategies and work plans. Thank you for your leadership, Kosi, and thank you to the team from the waste management within SPREP, and also to all member countries who partnered with this program. Thank you very much. We hope that this will be a further inspiration to call for action. And so with those words, again, once more, thank you, Kosi, for your presentation. I understand we now have a short video for Cleaner Pacific. So can the video now be...
For many years, our ancestors lived in a traditional society. But in the last couple of decades, we have witnessed a shift from a traditional society to a consumer society. The result is the influx of commodities and goods which are designed and packaged for storage life and convenience. This has resulted in the unprecedented increase of wastes. The increased pressures from induced activities of human beings such as pollution, population growth, coastal development, coupled with the adverse impacts of climate change, threatened our environmental, social and economic resilience. The threats of increased waste and pollution threaten our sustainable development and are now elevated even more so than ever before. We're now faced with a major crisis. We must act now by ensuring, first of all, that we are making better consumer choices than ever before. Secondly, we must promote recycling and adopt a more innovative approach to using traditional alternatives. This is consistent with the Clean Pacific 2025 call for a shift from a linear economy to a circular economy where we import commodities that can be used, recycled and reduced to recyclable waste. To make this happen, we need to effectively engage and incentivize the private sector and empower civil society by creating opportunities for employment. The celebration of the Global Recycling Day in Samoa on March the 18th with its Recycling Hero theme is a clear demonstration of a successful journey to a cleaner Pacific. Through this activity, Samoa reduced the amount of waste that could have otherwise ended up in the landfill.
As you grow up to be adults, to take care of this land and leave it in a better place for your own children. It's not that far away, you know? And recycling everywhere in the world. So many different countries recycle because it's important. You know, you have some glass, you have some plastic. You don't want that rubbish to go into the ground. You want it to go to a better place, right?
Real need to collect all the recyclable materials and make sure they're put to good use.
The problem that we're having right now is that we are seeing a lot of those beautiful aspects of our region being destroyed and impacted by the actions of mankind. And unfortunately, that's you and me. So we need to do something.
We're actually doing plastic segregation in school in terms of waste management, and it's good. It's also good for them to learn from the experts in the area, and that they have seen hands-on work from the experts or the professions who are working in the area here in SPREP.
And as you know, we depend on the oceans. We depend on the natural resources that we have here in the Pacific. I am told that 60% of the global tuna trade emanates from this region. In other words, we are feeding the world with our tuna resources. I'm also told that many of the biodiversity that we have here in the Pacific is endemic. That means you do not find it in any other place. We have low-lying atolls that are unique, beautiful, beaches that are pristine.
We can reduce the usage of plastic bottles by using these vacuum bottles. That they are very portable and you don't have to keep going to the store and buy it.
There is now an urgency for all of us to act together and to act now. This means at a personal level, we have to change the way we think and the way that we behave when it comes to waste. In our pursuit of a cleaner Pacific, taking little steps will make a big difference.
Reuse, reuse, recycle!
Thank you so much, everyone. And we have now officially come to the end of the session 2 of our Clean Pacific Roundtable opening ceremony. Thank you very much for joining us. We will now proceed to a 15-minute break before we commence the Island Forum of Day 1, named Clean Pacific 2025 Implementation Plan 2021 to 2025. I promise that this next session features some very interesting presentations, so please do join us then. So until then, Vinaka, and thank you once again. We'll see you shortly.